Hello. And this is my Wizard Ash Forest Halfguide. So first, gear requirement. You need a lot of gear. There's no getting around that. Normally, I say that people overstate gear requirements for spots, but that's not true here. Now, it's not as high as it says on the thing. However, you do want a very, very minimum of 350 DP, but preferably more like 370-ish. It's quite a scary spot. Now, AP, it really depends on how slow you're willing to kill. Your DP is what you really need. So, there are 4 types of mob. There's the Varnaros, which will do that attack, which does a lot of damage but isn't scary. He just goes up in the air and comes down, and you probably front guard it. He'll do this slash attack, also not scary. Now, ready for the scary ones. Not yet. See, I just front guard it. The scary ones will include things like this. He disappears and comes behind you. And the other one, he's kind of like a Sork. He will do a violation, which is the Sork spinning thing. And he will go kind of through you. And that's scary because each individual hit does a lot of damage, and it hits a lot of hits. Let's see if we can make him do it. I don't know why he doesn't want to do that. Ah, here we go. That one. It gets behind you, so it'll go through your front guard, and it hits you many times. Now the mini mob boot is the Gyros. Never underestimate the Gyros, because they still do a lot of damage, and if you're fighting 10 of them and they all sync up their attacks, then you can kind of get one tapped, and you don't want that. See how it hits pretty fast? And it can still hit a lot? And remember that I'm using a defensive elixir of DR of minus damage for monsters, an Alki stone of minus damage for monsters, a lot of minus damage for monsters from this, and just a lot of gear in general. But even with a lot of defense, if you have 5 or 6 or 7 or 8 hitting you, that can get very scary very quickly. Especially if it's either back attack, nighttime, or if multiple of them make it through your evasion. See, even 2. I can't just auto-heal that. Now the scariest one is the Varnaros. First scary thing, he shouts, bringing everything else to him. Second scary thing, he has medium range, but that's not what's scary. What's scary is you cannot let him medium range you for too long, and I will show you why soon. Or he will show you why soon. Here we go. I don't want to let too many of these hit me, because each one will do the damage that you just saw it do. Let me see if he back attacks me once. Yeah, no thanks. So, you absolutely cannot let him get into this mode of scariness. Like, no matter what you do, don't let him do that. And here's how to avoid it. It's not hard, you simply need to be near him. So, you pull things on top of the Varnaros, kind of like an Elton or a 2-car Balton in Histria. And you kill them while they are on top of the Varnaros. Now for general grinding strategy. First, use your front guard judiciously. Your equilibrium break front guard is very helpful. Your lightning storm front guard is very helpful. So keep that in mind. So how do you grind? You hit the Rift Seed, which visibles all of the invisible things. you ideally keep it to 1 Varnaros. If you have to range pull that, I'll show you how later. You can aggro orb them. It says they don't like aggro orb, but they actually do. They don't like it as much as other things. It's kind of weird. Sometimes they stick on it well, other times they don't stick on it. But they will always be attracted to it at least momentarily, so go for it, even if it's just for the PPD buff. So do you see how that went so smoothly? It's quite nice. So again, hit Rift Seed to visible the invisibles, and let the Varnaros bring things. Should probably put my elixirs, shouldn't I? The Rift Seed is very nice, because you don't see a lot of the mob loot there until you hit the Rift Seed, then they suddenly appear. Oh, I think I used the same one twice in a row. These things happen. Wait, I didn't. I don't know why I didn't go. These things still happen. So, anyways. Notice how, while I fight them, I move around a decent amount. That's because you don't really want to face tank them. Like a lot of times I won't use my orb for this one, just to demonstrate. But you see how I use front guard? Protected super armor, I still take a lot of damage of my front guard. But after I use my front guard, I can position, and then you see that by the time they kind of recalibrate and hit me, I have my lightning storm front guard up. So, debuff with Voltaic, front guard with this, frigid fog, position, lightning, residual lightning, and I have my protected lightning storm. So, stay mobile if you need to, which is especially helpful if you have a little bit lower gear and you're doing this spot. Or even if you have high gear and you're doing this spot, honestly. It's a really scary spot. And use front guard judiciously. Another thing you might want to consider, it's kind of unconventional, but this other Earth response lets you use it while the cooldown is there, and it lets you move around, but I don't use that just because I use my dodge and the other Earth response travels me longer, but it's just a possibility for staying mobile. I actually used that when I did this with a little bit lower gear. Now, 2 Varnaros. Stay out of range of its medium range attack, and do not try to reset it. It will follow you almost forever. So stay out of range of its medium range attack to pull it on top of the other Varnaros, and then kill the pack as you normally would. Hopefully quickly, because you have 2 Varnaros. I like to save my ebuff for instances of 2 Varnaros. So again, do you see how I kind of stay mobile? I stay just out of range of the Gyros' physical attack. And I make sure to use Protected SA, which is the SA on that gives you additional DR on the Awakening skills. And Front Guard, yeah, it's really scary, so you want to do that. Now sometimes the Volcaros survive with too much HP. You can kill them if you really want to, or you can pull them to the next pack, because they have a long leash range also. I usually just do whatever I feel like doing. So again, hit the Rift Seed to visible everything. The reason I pulled the Varnaros a little bit is because it's within range of the other if it spawns, and because I spent a while killing it, and I also have this Varnaros to deal with. So yep, you definitely want to be careful of the Varnaros. couldn't have pulled too many things, but oh well, these things happen. Ah, oh yeah! I'm so glad that happened. I got to tell you about it now. Remember the lantern thing I said that he will still do? If you are close range-ish, that is it. It does not do his medium range spam, however, it's actually long range spam. I'll show you how long it is in a sec. However, he will do a lot of damage to you. You still evade it. It's not like 100% hit, but when it hits you, like you saw, you really don't want it. I think the time I came closest to dying here was when 2 Varnaroses did that simultaneously. That was like really scary. Like way too scary. Now I will show you why it can be such a big problem. If you have a ranged Varnaros who goes into, I don't know what to call it, I'll call it scary mode. The first time I've ever wanted a Varnaros to misbehave. Here we go. See? It's definitely a problem. It doesn't really stop doing it either. It slows you, and each one hits you for like, it's me for 20% of my health, so whatever that is in your health, that's what it hits you for. It's quite a scary thing. Now, I guess I should talk a little bit more about gear. Oh wait, no, there's one more thing I want to talk about. So you can, here's a nice way to avoid double Varnaros pulls. Okay, let me get to, oops, I'm trying to get to where I want to get to. So, you see how this Varnaros shouts also? If you are at your pull limit, a lot of times you can avoid the double Varnaros. It shouted, but it won't always follow. So you can just kill one Varnaros. It's always ideal if you only have to kill one Varnaros. So just if you see the other one shout doesn't mean that it's going to follow. And you can help by hitting the Rift Seed before the shout, so you aggro lots of things to you before that Varnaros can cause trouble to you. What was I going to say now? I forgot what I was going to say. Oh yeah, evasion versus DR. A lot of people have that question. In general, but also for this spot. DR is more consistent. Evasion, you take less damage at high gear overall. The tough thing is, even at my gear, I could still, in theory, if I get unlucky, get RNG damage and get one tapped. So, it's really a question of what would I rather have? Taking quite a bit more damage, but the consistency of DR, or less overall damage with evasion. The less overall damage is like I can sort of face tank things a little bit. And there's a lot of offensive value in that. I'm sure more than enough to make up for my Libra's gloves. And I couldn't really do that with DR as I would be taking a lot of consistent damage. With evasion, it's like you tank things until you take an uncomfy amount of damage, and then you get out. You wouldn't be able to do what I just did very comfortably in DR. But as I took an uncomfy amount of damage there, that's when I will remove myself from the situation. So it's really up to you. It's not a matter of one being better or worse. It's really a matter of preference. Now to simulate, I can't really simulate full DR very well, but it would be 52 more DR. I'll just equip a decent amount more DR. Just so you get the idea of the damage they do to me when it does go through. Again, I will of course take far less damage because of my high dodge rate, but they still can hit me very hard. However, when they do hit, it's generally a whole lot less. I'm a lot more comfy taking hits. So kind of the way that DR works, as you probably see from this demonstration in PvE, is you might have noticed that things... Oops. You might have noticed that, like, let's say when you first started grinding Histria, or Star End, like the typical entry-ish level high-end spots. You might have noticed that some hits only hit you for a couple percent, whereas some chunk you for like 10 or 15%. Similar to how weapons have a range of damage, 131 to 137, 123 to 132. Mabu also hit with but with a much wider range of effective AP. I think the reason they do that is so, you can still be threatened at a spot if you're really high gear. But it's not just going to one-tap people who are lower gear, I don't know, whatever. But anyways, I think they want to make it so that it's challenging to a wider range of gear. Oh, I got a black booth, nice. And it kind of accomplishes that by saying, even if you have a ridiculously high amount of DR, you can still get hit for a lot of damage. However, you now have enough DR that some of the hits or that a larger percentage of the hits will be hitting you for lower damage. I'll probably link a video in the description showing that. And if you want to experiment with it yourself, don't do it here, but at a spot like Histria or Sukraya or Star End, let one thing hit you and drop a significant amount of DR, like take your helmet off. And see how some of the hits won't hit you for a lot, but others will hit you for maybe 30% of your health. But then when you re-equip your helmet, things will hit you consistently very low. You saw with this amount of DR, I was just getting into the amount of DR where Ash Forest will sometimes hit me for very low, but still can hit me for a lot of damage. Ah, see? That was back attack, but still 1.5 multiplier. That was still a pretty high hit. Oh, yeah, see how much lower it hits then? So yeah, a lot of people will say, oh, evasion's better, but absolutely not. I'm sure you see how valuable this DR I have is. It's a lot less comfy, isn't it? There's a reason I didn't want Level Cross to try to hit me. So yeah, DR performs, it actually performed a lot better than I expected here. When I tried it with simulated DR, that is my equivalent level of gear in test server. So yeah. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed the Ash Forest Halfguide. And I forgot if I mentioned this before, but get a lot of knockdown resistance. You don't want to get knocked down here.